at the castle there. We ended that issue. President Rawlings also died. There were a lot of undertones as to where exactly he should be buried, and finally he also buried at the military cemetery like that. At the weekend, I was discussing this particular issue with a senior political fellow. He was saying that, and I was asking whether can the family normally have a hand or a last say in exactly where or the wishes of the dead be done. What if the president puts it in his will before he dies that I want to be buried in this particular place? Be that as it may, whatever is the issue surrounding his burial, it must be resolved. They cannot continue to keep the body or continue to quarrel over an issue that is already done. The man is gone. They should give him a peaceful rest. All processes leading to his burial, they should ensure that the right thing is done, the right protocols are put in place. There's no issue that you cannot resolve as human beings. God cannot come down to resolve the issue. And the man was a president. He might have done something. I don't know the exact issue that is between he and the current president that is leading to that. Be that as it may, the president has a family. The state too is the president's family. How can't we get together and resolve this? And do we need our colonial masters to come and resolve the matter? At least issues surrounding the burial of a former president should be done. And then there should be peace and harmony within the families so that the family, the country can move forward and pursue other things. Sometimes you look at these issues to be minor issues, but within the governance sector, if it is not done, it holds governance backward for a bit, because people will continue to wonder. And if the information is not out there as to exactly why the former president's family wants their late father, husband, brother to be buried in another country, then people can speculate and conjecture information. And if they do, you cannot blame them because they don't have the right information. They are searching for information. So I think that the country should come together. It shouldn't be something that should be a quarrel that should lead to a long-standing dispute between government and the former government's family. And I think this is the simple stake I have to put on.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Can you just give me the story?
The story?
Yes.
Okay.
Just give me the story.
The Ghanaian Times, I believe it's, yeah, right here.
Yeah. Good. You know, for me, there cannot be any testimony louder than this about how useless our African leaders have become. This is a very loud testimony. Zambia, where the state of unemployment is rising. Zambia, which has no control over its copper resources. Zambia, which is a new colony, which has not completely been able to break out of the colonial yoke, and so on. And what is receiving world attention today is whether or not the sitting president can attend the funeral of a dead president, and is moving from court to court, and so on. I mean, how useless. I mean, what else can point to the quality of leadership in Africa? Unbelievable. And this is also a testimony about political rivalry and the limits to which we can take it. So sitting president comes to the funeral of former president. So what? If he doesn't come, will he wake up again? If the sitting president doesn't come to the funeral of the former president, would he wake up again? What is this? So embarrassing. I feel so embarrassed as an African reading this story and having to comment on this story. And you see, sometimes it is also about the deification of our leaders. And if our leaders were ordinary, normal people like us and so on, would this happen? There's a certain level of deification of leaders. And that accounts for this very embarrassing story. This needless, completely needless fight between the family of a dead president and a government and so on. In any case, there's something which is a bit intriguing. How did the former president come to the conclusion that he would die before the sitting president? Did he apply some African electronics or what? I mean, it's also very strange that he could actually predict that he would die before the sitting president and therefore give an edict that when he dies, the sitting president should not come to his funeral. What's all this nyama, basa, stupidity? It's unbelievable. The problems that confront Zambia today, Master, look, the problems that confront Africa today. Today, Africa is littered with foreign military bases all over. Even in Ghana, we have a forward operating base of the U.S. Army and so on. If you look at what is happening in West Asia, where Qatar, for example, nearly received some beating because it allowed the United States to establish a military base there, we should begin to think, these are the important things. How do we get rid of all these foreign military bases on our soil? How do we make after work? You know, how do we create employment for our people and so on? These are the crucial issues, not who attends the burial of a former president. Dead body, dead body? Oh, Master, let's talk about something more useful.
You want to make
what?
a point?
The very important point that Comrade Kwesi makes about the implication of some of our leaders. Let's take what happened here in Ghana when we lost our dear president at the time, President Atta Mills, God rest his soul. His death came as a shock to everybody. But what happened? Because of the character of President Mills, even his opponents, the leadership of his opponents rushed to, first of all, go and show, pay condolences to his family, his widow and family. They went and the State House to sign the condolence book. And by that time, which was about 24 hours later, went to the Osu Castle to congratulate the vice president who had now constitutionally succeeded the president. It happened smoothly. That speaks also to the character of the person, that president who died. There was a very important point also that was made. Did this former president, what made him believe that he would go before? To the extent that he could actually give such an indication. You see, that also speaks to, and I say this with all due respect, because this problem was really needless. I mean, you're gone. You are a former president. Doesn't matter who comes to your funeral and who doesn't. Strictly speaking, as a statesman, everybody has a right to come to your funeral. So I think that, yes, in as much as we find this situation very sad, it also has a lot to do with the character of the person who died.
All right, thank you very much. At this stage, let me remind viewers that we are streaming live on Facebook and on YouTube as well. So for the very many of you out there who may want to share your views with us here on Pan-African Television, you are at liberty to so do. Also, our WhatsApp number is active. It also doubles as a text line. So you can send your views and comments via WhatsApp or text, Facebook or YouTube. I'll be glad to read them here for you. The next story has got to do with the press conference which was held yesterday by the suspended Chief Justice, Justice Araba Tokonu, in which she made some allegations. As per the report that I have here, I have counted about 6 to 7 allegations. I would allow my panelists to speak to those allegations and generally share with us their thoughts on the press conference which was held yesterday. But government has rejected claims of political agenda against the suspended Chief Justice. Let me quickly start this particular topic with you, Honorable Timothy Atabwade Awontrim. Sir.
Yeah, I think before the Chief Justice press conference, we had the information that should be doing press conference, and most of us were thinking, what was the press conference for, and for what purpose, and whether it was necessary. You know, when you are pregnant, when the day of giving birth comes, you must certainly give birth. So when the time came, we heard they spoke loudly. I was somewhere, I didn't pay much attention to it, but later on we're hearing a lot of issues. And for me, the conduct of the Chief Justice, this is a Chief Justice whom petitions, not one, not two, has been lodged against you as a Chief Justice. The platform has been set for you to ventilate your grievances, to go and respond to whatever issues they raise against you. Before that time, you requested for the petition was given to you to respond. You requested for 7 days, you were given 10 days to respond. Ample time, you did that. The committee, you initially were rejecting some members of the committee and so on. Finally, you've been asked to appear before it. Whatever issues you are, whatever that you deem is right, is where you must present your case. You are allowed to be there with your lawyer. And the petitioners also came with their lawyers. What surprises me is that after you've done all this, you are claiming political politicization of your case. You are being tried behind the back door, and the whole allegations for which a Chief Justice that is on suspension should know better. You, by your public appearance and then commenting on this issue from the word go, when the petitions came, we had even MPP lawyers, even members of parliament, who were even on radio and TV serializing the content of the petition, for which is against the law, that such petitions and the procedures should be held in camera. It is a constitutional fact, you can't change it. And the Chief Justice knows this thing very well, comes out to hold a press conference, try to use the platform for the public to come in and defend you. This is the court of public opinion that doesn't work. If court of public opinions were working, the most cases that were sent to the courts, be it at the lower court, at the higher court, would have been left to the public to determine. The Chief Justice has told her the law is the law. No matter what we say about any case that is brought, the law is the law. A constitutional body has been set. The processes has not been breached. No one, including the Chief Justice, unless she's not being truthful to her conscience and to the people of this country, there's nowhere during the process that any of the steps has been breached. Where is the political motivation when he tries to rather evoke the killing of the judges and Major Aqua, who is the uncle or so? You were rather pitching the public against the government of the day, making it look political. Making it look political. Where does these things come in at all, my brother? You do these things and you go around making so much, or if you are not resigned, whatever it is, the procedure, the platform is there. As we talked this morning, people with law background, Colossus, have come out to condemn her conduct. I am not a lawyer and I'm not going to go into the law, but my common sense tells you that, look, when a platform avails itself, go there and defend yourself, prove them right or wrong. I've been an investigator with Chirac before. Anytime a case comes, we hold some of them in camera. When the investigation is done, the report is given to you, the respondent, to respond. The procedure is clear and cut. The Chief Justice's conduct in itself has breached the Constitution, for which he has sworn to protect, and he is the highest officer of the judiciary. She should rather be holding the sanctity of the Constitution. He should rather be conducting herself within the confines of the law, within the confines of the law that set up that committee to investigate the case against it. In any case, was he saying that when the petitions were brought, the president should dismiss? The president has no power to dismiss any petition that followed this process and come. The Constitution gives a procedure for when a petition is lodged against a public officer, how it should be followed. It was followed in terms of the EC chairperson. It's now being followed, and the procedures. Someone should tell us where there was a breach or there was an issue not regarding procedural accuracy, everything was done. You are given all the freedoms to do whatever you wanted. You went to the Supreme Court. You know, as a lawyer, Kwame, and even she, that you cannot go to the Supreme Court and invoke the original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court in matters related to your rights. The High Court is there. You know it, and I believe that if someone had come to Justice Tokonu when she was presiding, he would have referred you back to the Supreme Court to go to where the appropriate institution is to evoke your life.
You said Supreme Court instead of High Court.
Yes, the high. Then you see this a Chief Justice who has presided over cases, and when the cases were not in your interest or the Attorney General brought, you use a phone call to transfer a judge that was sitting on the police case, a telephone call. You did not even respect that judge by penning the issues down. And I think the issues are many. He should rather cooperate and fast track her investigation rather than to be using the public. For the public, what are we coming to say about the Chief Justice? That petitions that have been lodged again? And I thought that he should have been wise to know that the information I have is that Chachu Chikata is representing one of the petitioners entered your sorry. These are lawyers who will not come before a committee if they know that the petition has no substance or it doesn't hold water. They will not do it for any reason. No amount of partisan politics can pull them before such a committee to come and then present a case that is not worth presenting. He should know better. And I think that by now, he should rather be cooperating with the investigations committee than to be using the public as a platform for the public to judge or to sympathize with it. No amount of sympathy can bend the law. No amount of public pronouncements can derail the processes leading to the conclusion of the matter.
Are you by this saying that she has openly indicated that the petitions against her are not credible? Because that's
that
what
is if yes. From my understanding.
Because I thought that she was talking about the process.
Yes. From my understanding, because this is yes, the process is clear. Kwame, we are in this country, we follow the process. Which part of the process that was breached?
She's talking
There's
about
any part.
A breach of natural justice arising out of the committee's refusal of a counsel in representing her at the first hearing. She makes that point.
Where is the natural justice even here?
No, she makes the point.
But even where is even the natural justice? Natural justice says that you must hear you, I must hear you.
Yes.
So where is the natural justice there? And it's not even true. Her complaint was about the fact that the husband was not allowed to sit in to listen to them and so. How can you complain that when you were spending the public money in your travel and your per diems and whatnot, it was okay for you? And this was an Auditor General report that came out with findings against you. And lot, the current issue that he's even making is if the committee even exonerated and can she preside over judges that you empaneled some years ago. Today you don't have confidence in them. You now believe that the judiciary is no more independent because you are bringing cases to them. And these were judges that you have been working with all the years. Today you turn around, you want to bastardize the judge. You want the public to see that the judiciary that you were presiding over, the judges that you empaneled at one time or the other to determine the fate of people are no more independent. Look at the issues he's raising. He should rather be holding the sanctity of the Constitution, the sanctity of the judicial independence, and the ability to deliver justice without fear or favor. But where he's going, I think that he's rather trying to court public sympathy, and sympathy cannot do anything to the law. You must follow due process. She has to go through and all those things. Is she saying that, excuse me to say, if the NPP had won and these petitions had been brought, they would have thrown them away. The president wouldn't have allowed due process to take place and so on. We remember Professor Kokwazan brought the earlier petition against her, and he has stated time and again that he's doing this because of his belief in constitutionalism. He's not doing that against the Chief Justice or personal shenanigans and so on. And that petition was thrown away. I think that if President Akufo-Addo at the time had allowed that petition to go through without issuing a letter throwing the content of the petition out and describing Professor Kokwazan in an unpalatable words and so on, probably won't have gotten where we are, and so on. So for me, the Chief Justice would have known that her conduct While he was sitting as a Chief Justice, some people were not happy and they would petition. And I keep saying that, you see, when you are appointed as a public officer, you swear your fidelity to the Constitution and the people of this country. Everybody should know that, and should know that, look, one, a government of the day can appoint you, but once you are sworn into office and you sit there, you must conduct yourself in accordance with the Constitution and the laws of your office and deliver justice without fear or favor to the public, no matter who, politically or privately, has the power, has so much power to stand before you. You must look, and that's why they say justice is delivered, what do you normally call it, in the name of the people, and so on. So whatever you do, you should be guided by the Constitution and the people of this country.
Well, thank you.
Now that he's purging politics, Kwame, look at all of us. We've been watching this case since it started. Where is the partisan thing he wants to attach to the case of it? No procedure has been bent. President John Dramani Mahama, he's trying to, has never taken a position. He's not even interested in what goes there. He's going about to ensure that the promises that he gave to the people of this country are well implemented for the benefit of those people, and not to go through a case that the Constitution has clearly, in a very clear way, laid down the procedure for the removal of a Chief Justice. And you should be grateful that we have a president who is, in fact, applying constitutionalism to his rules. And so other presidents would have thrown them away, assuming that these petitions were lodged against a justice that they pursued when the MP was in parliament, in government, pursued to be an MP, an NDC judge. You would have seen what they would have done to the judge, and so on and so forth. So for me, you should carry her own cross. She knew better and should do better.
Mr. London.
Well, Kwame, this matter, I am not too comfortable talking about it. This is a legal matter, purely legal. So I would have wished that the legal matters will be dealt with according to the legal processes. And then you lawyers, you call yourselves, what do you call them? They have a name. No, there's a term you use for lawyers. Learned. My learned colleague, my learned brother, my learned senior, my learned. So those of us who are not learned, we don't like to get involved in some of these matters. My disappointment is that, the office of the Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana is being brought into all this matter. First of all, yesterday, due to my own program, I was unable to follow the press conference. I went to a program, and on my way, I heard an announcement on the radio that she was going to have a press conference. So, of course, I was very anxious to know what was going to happen. Somewhere on the line, later in the day, I heard that the press conference was ongoing. Later on, when I inquired from somebody, so what has happened? They said, oh, the press conference is still ongoing. I said, hey, that's why, okay. So at that point, I didn't want to know too much. This morning, I've heard bits and pieces. But all told, I'm not happy with how, that's my personal view, how this matter is going. I wish petitions have been presented. The petitions go through the process. Whatever the issues both sides, either side has, they use the process to deal with it. And at the end of the day, we are just informed that this is the outcome. But when this thing now becomes a public spectacle, even when it's supposed to be in camera cry, it's already become a public spectacle. I think it doesn't help us as a country. There were one or two points I heard about the press conference that made me very uncomfortable. One of which was the fact that, and I'm just hearing another one from you about reference to Major Akwa and all that. Wow. That is, I think, stretching it a bit. What I heard also was about some threats that had been made to a person that if she didn't resign. Oh, that I found very, very sad. I won't use that word. Very, very sad. Because if a Chief Justice or former Chief Justice or suspended Chief Justice or whoever, or a senior justice is threatened, I think the first place would be to report the matter to the police. No, straight away. Because at the end of the day, you know, if I come and tell you that you threaten me, what can I say? Or what can you say? So, you see, all these things muddy the matters. And it puts me in a very uncomfortable situation, you see, by virtue of, I know her well, personally, over the many years, yes. So, it makes my own situation a bit more difficult. I just sincerely wish that this matter is dealt with and concluded, and all parties just, you know, but the public spectacle of it and the way it's going and the twists and turns of it, as an ordinary citizen of the country, I'm not very happy.
You're done. All right, Mr. Pratt, please.
Well, I heard about this press conference yesterday, and I decided to watch it live. And quite frankly, I felt extremely sad for the Chief Justice. Because what she succeeded in doing was to invite the press, which put the cameras on her, and then she declared that she's completely unfit to be Chief Justice of Ghana. That's what happened yesterday. You understand? First and foremost, her conduct is prejudicial and contemptuous of the process that she's part of. And I would have expected the Chief Justice to know better than what was exhibited yesterday. If she was sitting in court as a judge of the Supreme Court, as Chief Justice, whatever, as a justice, and somebody made statements which prejudge the outcome of the proceedings, what would have been her attitude? We have to be clear that there are two types of contempts. Contempt in facie cura and contempt ex facie cura. The most important ingredient is actions or comments likely to prejudice the outcome of the matter which is under consideration. It is contempt in facie cura when the comments are made in the presence of the court. Comments or actions are in the presence of the court. And it is contempt ex facie cura when it happens outside the view of the court. And what she did yesterday clearly amounts to prejudice, an attempt to prejudice the outcome of the court, of the proceedings of this inquisition, as some lawyers have described it. Now, for me, one of the most important points that she makes at this press conference has to do with the choice of venue for hearing the case. And you would wonder why that is the most important point for me. Judges, even in the lower courts, are human beings. All judges are human beings. They come with all kinds of biases and prejudice. But the expectation is that once they become judges, they will strive to overcome those prejudices that are inherent in their history, are inherent in the relationship they have formed, and so on. They must be able to rise above those prejudices. And indeed, when they are not able to rise above those prejudices, they are required by common sense and even the interpretation of the law to recuse themselves. Okay. Now, what did the suspended Chief Justice do yesterday? She came and said, this process is taking place at a Edu Lodge. Something happened at a Edu Lodge more than 40 years ago, which is related to my uncle. And because of that, I feel traumatized. I'm unable to make balanced judgments. I feel intimidated. I see ghosts, I see kakai when Edu Lodge is mentioned. Master, clearly, what she's saying is that she's not been able to rise above that prejudice which is inherent in her relationship with Major Akwa. That prejudice which is inherent in her family history and so on. Is that not worrying? I'm very worried about it. You understand? And all of us do know that that event she referred to has to do with the PNDC, the Provisional National Defense Council, over which Jerry Rawlings was chairman. So if she carries such a prejudice, if she's traumatized by that event, doesn't that suggest that she cannot be fair to anybody directly or remotely related to the PNDC? Yeah. What a statement to come from her. Yeah. So, based on her own statement, what was the case before her for determination? And the plaintiff's name by accident is Amatekwe. What will she do? Just think about it. Based on what she said yesterday at the press conference. Now there's a case before her, and the plaintiff or respondent or defendant is called Amatekwe, who was executed for the assassination of her uncle. Based on her own statement, what will be her attitude? I mean, this is the gravamen of what she said yesterday. The prejudice is inherent. She cannot rise above it. She's steeped in that prejudice. Her whole life is about the murder of Major Akwa. It influences her. It gives her jitters and so on. Clearly, the statement she made yesterday is that she's unqualified to be Chief Justice because she cannot rise above her prejudice. She cannot rise above her prejudice, which is inherent in her family history and so on. And I was very deeply troubled by her own statement about herself. You understand? Very deeply troubled about that. Now, as Chief Justice, it is also clear that she must be very conversant with the law. She must know the law. Okay? And the law is made up of the hardcore letter of the law. Hardcore letter of the law. What the law says. The letter of the law. And also history. There are two components. The law in motion, that is its history. What judgments were arrived before, what contestations took place in the court and so on, all of that add to the interpretation of the law. And then the text of the law itself too. So I'm surprised that the Chief Justice's press conference clearly does not show that she's aware that the Supreme Court had made 3 determinations on some of the issues that she raises. And one of the issues she raises has to do with in-camera sitting of this committee. Indeed, Kwame, 3 Supreme Court decisions have been made before her case was referred to the Justice Pramang Committee. And in the first case, there's a case of Justice Derry versus Tiger Eye. There's also the case of Ajay Chum versus Attorney General. And there is the case of the Ghana Bar Association versus the Attorney General. In all of these 3 cases, the Supreme Court decided that Article 146 proceedings ought to be in camera. Our Chief Justice does not know this. So if our Chief Justice does not know this, how competent can she be as a Chief Justice? She's not aware. She doesn't know that there have been 3 determinations. The such processes ought to be in camera. What? The Chief Justice doesn't know. Shocking. Let's put that aside. The Chief Justice is complaining that her husband was not allowed into the city. She said that her husband was not allowed into the city, so she's angry. So there's a conspiracy against her. This one, Master, you don't have to be a lawyer. You don't have to be a judge. You just have to be somebody who understands English small, not plenty, small. How can a proceeding be in camera and spouses are invited to sit in? Somebody must explain that to her. I think that I understand it, but she needs explanation. So when I heard that yesterday, I was completely taken aback. So this madam, this woman was Chief Justice of Ghana. How did she become Chief Justice of Ghana? Amazing, unbelievable. Can you believe that she was Chief Justice of Ghana? And she doesn't know that on 3 occasions, the Supreme Court, over which she presided on many occasions, had made a clear determination on this matter. And she wants her husband to come and sit in the process, in the proceedings. What will the husband do for her? The husband's presence. So, if the Chief Justice is telling us that she loses her balance when the husband is not around, and she is saying it, or I'm not saying it, that when the husband is not around, she becomes jittery, she loses her balance, she can't think properly, and so on. Okay, agreed. So when there are major constitutional cases which will determine the destiny of this country, and she's sitting in the Supreme Court, would we take her husband to sit by her and hold her hand for her to be firm and clear? I mean, unbelievable. The Chief Justice is certainly clearly telling us that she's not competent. Because if you have a judge who needs her husband or her wife's presence in court in order to give her vim and stability, then we're in trouble. If I lie, please tell me if I lie. Because that's an argument that when my husband is not around, oh my goodness, I can't do nothing. I start shaking and so on. So in all the cases that she presided over, was her husband in court? All the cases, I think we should check. Because if the husband was not in court, hey, then she did something to the law. Why are you laughing? Because she needs a husband. The husband must be by her to give her stability. You know, when the husband is not there, she's traumatized. So when she's sitting in the Supreme Court and making decisions and her husband is not there, she's traumatized. And she will use that trauma to give you a judgment. Why are you people laughing? No, I'm very serious.
No, it's a good analysis.
No, I am very serious.
No.
Sometimes people's cases.
This one, it is.
You are presiding over people's destiny. You are presiding over people's destiny. You have the power. You actually, Uncle, you actually have the power to order that people should be killed. When you sit as Chief Justice and you sit in the Supreme Court, you have the power. You play God. You can actually play God. Yeah. Decide who should be killed and who should not be killed. And such a person tells us that in the absence of her husband, she goes gagas. What? Can you believe this? That when the husband is not there, and she has so much power. Wow. incredible. I mean, I simply cannot believe it. But it gets worse. It gets worse. Massa, it gets worse. This is Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana. And Massa, Ghana has had some of the best judges in the history of jurisprudence in Africa. And we can mention them. Prominent Justice, Olenu, mention them, Akufo-Addo, and so on. The position she occupies has been occupied by giants in law and so on. And that is how we should judge our justices of the Supreme Court, especially the chief amongst them. I'm a lay person. I didn't go to law school. I don't have any law qualification, Massa. But I know, just from reading the Constitution, you don't have to be a lawyer to understand this, that when it comes to the enforcement of fundamental human rights, original jurisdiction is vested in the High Court and not the Supreme Court. Me, I know that. Our Chief Justice doesn't know that. Hey! Can you believe? So she actually goes to the Supreme Court to invoke the original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court to protect her fundamental human rights. She didn't know. Her colleagues at the Supreme Court had to tell her that, oh, Madam, as for this one, we beg you. That is not the case. The Constitution doesn't say that. And she's still insisting on sitting there as the Chief Justice. She doesn't know the law. What? Chief Justice Tokon, she doesn't know the law. Unbelievable. Then, in her press conference, she says something else which is completely shocking. And it should be shocking for us. That the committee did not allow one of the petitioners, I think he's called Daniel Ofori, to testify. Wow. Master, you remember, you have to remember the election petition. You remember?
Yeah. Big one there.
You remember the decision of the Supreme Court?
Big one.
The Supreme Court decided in our face, and in fact, that proceeding was televised. The Supreme Court decided that they cannot even force Jim Mensah to testify. You understand? They said they would not even allow her to testify. She's free to testify or not to testify. And that was a case in which she was the presiding officer for that election. She was. That was the case in which she was the electoral chairperson of the Electoral Commission and so on. The Supreme Court decided that, no, madam, if you don't want to testify, it's okay. But our learned Chief Justice, and she's more than learned, her Lordship, the Chief Justice, doesn't know that. Her Lordship, the Chief Justice, says that the committee should have forced Daniel Ofori to testify. Unbelievable. Then another case which just kills me completely. Justice Tokonu holds a press conference and she says that I have not been given a copy of the petition. I am not sure what kind of petition the committee is dealing with and so on. But you see, she made a request to President John Dramani Mahama to give her 7 days to respond to those petitions. President John Dramani Mahama gave her 10 days, 3 more days, to respond to the petitions. And she did indeed respond to the petitions. True or false?
Exactly.
Okay. So, how could she have responded to petitions that she didn't know the contents of which she didn't know. How could she have responded to those petitions? Then this matter comes up and she says, oh, yes, I've responded to the petitions, which means that she has the petitions, okay? I've responded to the petitions. But I am not sure that the petitions I responded to are the petitions which were given to the committee. Oh, madam, please. Master, it is not possible, and I'm saying this, it is not possible for the committee to have a set of petitions which are different from the petitions that she responded to. You know what? Because the inquisitorial process, okay, ultimately, what will lead to the determination of the case, the petition against her, is not the petition. It is the evidence which will be adduced, and the rebuttal of the evidence or the confirmation of the evidence. That is what ultimately will lead to decisions being made. I hope you understand that, okay? So, if the petition she responded to accuses her of constitutional violation, and the petition before the committee accuses her of theft, it becomes so obvious.
Yeah.
Because the evidence which will be left will be evidence on theft and not constitutional violation.
Yes.
So it becomes so obvious. You don't need ChatGTP or whatever, to understand this common thing. Even those of us who are not lawyers, we understand. But unfortunately, she doesn't understand. She thinks that it is possible to have a set of petitions, sent to the president, and the president somehow will send another set of petitions to the committee. And what an insult to the president. Can you imagine that this woman, this Chief Justice, actually believes that she's dealing with a president who can be so dishonest as to give her a set of petitions to answer and send a different set of petitions to the committee? I mean, I can't believe it. She is demanding fairness, but she cannot even be fair to the president. She's actually calling the president a crook.
Yeah.
She's calling the president a crook. On what basis? No basis. She's calling the integrity of the president into question. She's actually calling the integrity, even by extension, of the whole Council of State into question, without a basis. She's calling the integrity of a committee, constitutional committee, chaired by her colleague. Justice Former is her colleague. In fact, when they sit on the Supreme Court, she's only primus inter pares. That is the rule, primus inter pares. So Justice Former is her colleague. And she's calling Justice Former's integrity into question without a basis. I can't believe it. But Kwame, it gets worse. One of the judges sitting on this committee served on the Supreme Court with her. And she has, on more than one occasion, empaneled him to deal with very, very serious cases. So when she was empaneling that judge, what did she think of that judge? When she was empaneling that judge, what did she think of that judge?
You were the Chief Justice.
Unbelievable. Completely unbelievable. I can't understand it. What is this? And then she makes another argument. I wish I had a copy of the Constitution with me. That one of the petitioners, which appears to be an organization, doesn't exist. That's the argument. It says the petitioner doesn't exist. And why she thinks that the petitioner doesn't exist, apparently is because she's gone to the Registrar General and found that it is not registered as an organization. Whoa. Uncle Randa. If you read the 1992 Constitution, if you read the portions on freedom of association, it does not require registration as authentication of existence. Yes, if you are registering a company to do business and so on, that's fine. But the four of us sitting on this table can decide to act together as citizens without registering. And there is no law against that. When you read the provisions of the 1992 Constitution, freedom of association. So if the four of us agree that tomorrow morning we hold a press conference on how to cook banana, nothing can stop our acting together as a group by any name, for as long as the four of us agree to act in that manner. Indeed, the only restraining thing, and even that is inferior to the constitutional provision, is the public order law. Because the public order law requires of us, if we want to act together, in public manifestations to notify the police, to give them notice and so on. But even that law is inferior to the provisions of the Constitution. And I've argued that the public order law needs to be challenged and repealed because it's unconstitutional. Because the Constitution grants unfettered right to citizens to protest, to demonstrate, to hold processions and so on. The public order law introduces fetters to that right. So I insist that it can be challenged. I don't have the means to challenge it, but I insist that it can be challenged. So that is the only fetter to citizens acting together and so on. So I don't know how the Chief Justice read the Constitution. I want to be very, very kind to her. But it is possible. It is possible that when she was reading the Constitution, the husband was not by her. Yes, because when the husband leaves her side, must have the confusion that she encounters is huge. So maybe Tim is right. That when the Chief Justice was reading the constitutional provisions of the freedom of association and so on, the husband perhaps may have,
gone out or something.
Gone out to some friends to change more.
Because he's racing. If the husband were there, I don't think we would have put that in the petition.
By the way, was the husband present at the press conference? I didn't see the husband. I don't know the husband.
Yeah, I don't know the husband.
I don't know that.
But maybe the husband was not present at the press conference. That may also explain some of the things that happened there. Come here, finish my submission.
Oh, I was enjoying it, pal.
Are you the only one that did it?
I'm only happy that it has ended. Because, anyway.
And sometimes, I don't know who advises the Chief Justice. There are some of the things Uncle Kwesi raised in this petition, in the press conference, absolutely unnecessary for you to insert them there. The Justice Akwa case is example where the venue for which the inquisitorial committee is being held is also a problem. Why should you bring these things into a press conference? Address the real issue. It means that you have no case. You are just fishing. Let me bring this and make my case look political. Let me bring this and then bring cases of the fact that my uncle was killed and then so that I can have a case. If no, why would you put this as a learned judge of so many years?
What I keep asking myself since yesterday is that what was the purpose of this press conference?
Yes.
Apparently the husband was there, Francis Toro.
George. So even with the husband there,
Yes.
this was a performance. Then can you imagine if the husband was not there, what the performance would have been?
George Villiers was there to cover it, and he has sent me.
So if the husband was not there, what quality should we have expected?
Yes.
Because even with the husband sitting by her,
This is what we got.
Okay, let's move on and look at another story, which has to do with September 21 being restored as Founders Day. I'm excited, by it. Mr. Lang, are you excited?
Well, I am happy personally that 21st September is being marked. Because there are other countries in Africa that mark the day.
Yeah.
And it's just too bad
So
that
is it
in
not
Ghana,
ironic?
we do not mark it. And what is even sad is that we were actually marking it, then we moved it, or we stopped marking it and tried to. So for me, I'm happy. But you see, I've also held a certain position I've held for decades. If I started from those days when I was a very, very active farmer, I'm still a farmer, but not as active as before.
Yeah, certainly.
I was doing a 24-hour economy farm.
Long time before.
I was farming 24 hours a day.
Long time before
Yes.
policy.
I was farming 24 hours a day because as a farmer in this part of the world, you depend and pray to the Almighty for the weather to be kind to you. So in those days, and it was during those days that Farmers' Day was declared a holiday. And Farmers' Day, one of the prizes for Farmers' Day was cutlass and things like that.
Wellington boots.
Wellington boots. I thought it was the most ridiculous celebration ever. Most ridiculous celebration ever. Because in those days, we were assembling tractors in Ghana. And poor farmers like myself could afford to buy tractors and pay for it with bank loans and stuff like that. And anyway, I don't want to go into all that.
Yeah.
So I have been against unnecessary holidays, and I have always been against it. I remain against Farmers' Day being a national holiday, because a farmer in Ghana will only take his holiday after he has tilled his land, harvested his crops successfully, sold it and made his money. Then he will take a holiday. But whether it is Sunday or Monday, day or night, if that farmer knows he has to go to the farm, he will go to the farm. So for a holiday to be institutionalized for farmers, I thought, and I still believe, it's something that we can save ourselves that day and give ourselves another working day as a developing country. Because after all, we have May Day for all workers. So that is my personal position on that matter.
Let me read a few. Oh, are you done?
No, yes, but back again to the original 21st September.
Yes.
I'm happy that we are marking that day.
Very well.
And choosing to call it Founders Day.
Let me read a few messages and then I will come to you, Honorable Tim. Ibrahim Abdul Karim Jabbar, Mr. Pratt is too deep. Mahamadu Fusheni Ayigbedo, I hope I got it right. Quite lengthy. I may not be able to read all of it, but I'll try. Good morning to you, Lawyer KOD and your esteemed guest. The suspended Chief Justice's actions yesterday have potentially undermined her capacity to hold the position with integrity, irrespective of the outcome. Even if cleared by the committee, it's questionable whether she can maintain effective working relationships with her judicial peers and the executive arm of government. The press conference she held yesterday has led to a loss of confidence, which might be prudent for her to resign before her reputation and the judiciary suffer further damage. When a matter is sub judice, isn't it advisable to avoid discussing its merits or demerits? One would expect the Chief Justice to be well versed in this principle. In the past, during the Jakpa and former Attorney General's case, both legal professionals and politicians from various parties were urged to refrain from commenting on the case. Why then, is a press conference being convened to publicly discuss the details of this case. It appears that a suspended Chief Justice may be attempting to garner public support, which seems inconsistent with established protocols. Doesn't this approach contradict your own guidelines, Madam Chief Justice? Given a position, one would anticipate adherence to these principles, particularly in matters before the court or committee. The optics of the actions may undermine the perceived impartiality and professionalism expected of the judiciary. Thank you. Lillian Akosia Bediako, the MPP in 8 years refused to fix the main bridge serving the Asantis at Kutukum in the Atrimamponwa district. President Mahama, NDC, have just used 6 months to fix it. Bismarck Nagastic, I feel ashamed listening to her. She, as CJ, must know better. Lillian Akosia Bediako, why is the MPP CJ trying to be relevant? Anti-Araba, please, MPP is in opposition and they are misleading you. Ask ex-President Akufo-Addo. That's why you guys are in opposition. Prince Ngasi, Bro Kwame, good morning. Please, has CJ forgotten that the law is the law? No amount of press conferences, no matter the amount of press conferences held. Aaron Bebe Shukura, Kwame, I like Mr. Pratt very much, Mr. Pratt's submission very much. I think the CJ was put there for the former president's self-interest and not the interest of Ghana. Ibrahim Boss, good morning to you, KOD. I'm watching you from New Jersey. Keep it up. Jonathan Dokenu, good morning. What the suspended Chief Justice did yesterday was clearly against the provisions of Article 146. A clear emotional blackmail full of instigation and a spirited attempt to throw the committee probing her and the government under the bus. The presser is a clear violation of the very judicial oath she took. Jonathan Dokenu from Akachi. Can you guys bring me the WhatsApp phone? I don't have it. Well, let me come to you, Honorable Tim.
Yeah, Kwame, 21st September has been restored. We were celebrating it, so hooray. And kudos to Parliament yesterday and the executive that brought the bill for it to be restored. It's not a new thing. It was only that a president came into power, and then he wanted to change it to suit his whims and caprices and his family legacy. All that is it all. If not, like Philip London said, Nkrumah's towers above Ghana. The whole of Africa, you go to any place, they will even hear Nkrumah's name before Ghana. You go to some place, if you say Ghana, they say, oh, Nkrumah. And countries are celebrating him, the world is celebrating him. We didn't create Nkrumah. Nkrumah came with God-given a vision to lead Ghana to where we are today, and equally to lead the whole African continent and so on. Then the president comes to power and decides to change all these things because you want to do everything to bring in your family into the history of this country. What is that? What sort of governance are we doing? Look, President Kufuor is also an MPP fellow. He came to power. He never touched those days. He knows history more than President Kufuor. So what you were doing was not even a party matter. It was a personal matter that you wanted to do. Give history where history is not supposed to. And I knew that this was not going to last. There are some things in this world. Don't tie them because they will never last. I knew that once MPP leave office, the next government, be it NDC or CPP, any government that has come, will restore back our glorious days and the history of this country. You don't do that. You come, you are changing this. Independence is not supposed to be that. The Ghana, we don't have a founder. We have founders. To what? Everybody knows who is the founder of Ghana. It's undoubted. You can't change it. History has told us. They've taught this in over the school years. Even kids, when you ask them, they know. Then the whole president who came to power over 70 years, come and you want to rewrite history. How do we do that? So for me, kudos to Parliament, kudos to all those who supported the change of restoration of the 21st September Day from Kroma and other holidays that were originally being enjoyed by the people of this country. It's the best way to do. Don't let us turn things around. When power is given to us, like we kept saying, like Anti-Imperialist Party was saying this morning about the fact that a dead president's body, where it should be buried, has become an issue when the people of that country is suffering. When we're suffering, you were busy doing some things that are not tangible. Changing of day just to suit your long-held view about how history should be rewritten. You cannot rewrite history. When you were not part of those making the history, you cannot come and then rewrite it.
I like that.
When they were making the history, where were you? Where were you? So for me, this is just my take on it.
You cannot rewrite history if you were not part of it. That's actually very deep. Yeah. Good morning to you, KOD, and your panelists. Founders Day scrapped. You mean restored? Hooray! This is the scenario that was hanged on our necks. Runners on your mark, set prrr, a runner falls flat on the 10-meter mark in a 100-meter race. Walks to the finish line asking for the gold medal. In fact, it's now very clear CJ Tokonum is one of the of President Akufo-Addo. One of the President Akufo-Addo visited on Ghana, as if plunging us into deep economic crisis was not enough. Good morning to you, Kwame and your panelists. I'm a retired Chief Inspector of Police who is vexed in the socio-economic and political history of the Gold Coast and Ghana. It is time for patriotic Ghanaians to destroy the elite of corrupt, criminal, and arrogant politicians and academicians that have been created in the Ghanaian society by the past MP-sensitive government and Akufo and Akufo-Addo. Tell Uncle Kwesi Pratt that I need his contact for thoughts on Ghana. Thank you. This one also says, good morning to you, sir. We chose to remain in darkness with our dignity and integrity to enjoy our birthright as Ghanaian citizens than the doom of your leadership. That sought to extinct Ghanaian people in order to satisfy political party bigotry. We didn't even talk about that. You know, the birth certificate matter. From Anafi is in Tamale Central Constituency. Thank you, Anafi. Good morning to you, KOD, and your panelists. Greetings to my former MP, Honorable Timothy. Please let the CJ know that she's not above the law, and the law is the law, as stated by her some time ago. If she, the CJ herself, can lose trust in the judiciary, then the judiciary is indeed calling for a reset, and that's exactly what is currently happening. She should keep quiet and cooperate with the committee. After all, karma is real, and now it is very, very fast. She's being used to clean the mess created in the judiciary. Evans from Chuchuliga. Yes, Chuchuliga. Good morning to you, Kiori. I am Ato from Cape Coast. We the Fantis, and she is a Fanti. Have a saying that say Egwan Rebewua opera and challenge the Fanti, we are not right Fanti. Anyway, to wait, if the God is about to die struggles, and any executioner who is about to be beheaded struggles. This is all what the suspended CJ is dramatizing. The law is a law. We must allow it to work for the country to move forward. Good morning to you, KOD. Uncle Kwesi is my man. He makes the show very objective and factual. Please ask him, how can I be a member of Socialist Movement of Ghana? Okay. SMG. You said GSM. It's not GSM. It's SMG. Fourth Thursday after June 4th. May the Lord show you in your house. Professor Zum agreed talking something. It's not clear. Honorable is saying the big truth. I suggest he sends this message to the president and all the agents to secretly investigate. Most workers make money, and those monies are even more than their monthly salaries. This canker of 10% should be stopped. Hey, when was this sent? Okay. This one says, this is Mohammed, political Fulani. Okay, I like your discussions. Restoring September 21st as Founders Day is not a policy. I don't know what you're talking about. Mabel from Takwa says, this CJ is not the first to be removed from office. CJ Akosa was sacked outright without a process. Mabel from Takwa sent in this one. Well, thank you very much, Mabel. James Mano says the government has been very lenient with the Chief Justice. They should withdraw the security and her bodyguards and take the vehicle away from her, because everywhere when you are suspended, you are not entitled to any privileges again until you are cleared or reinstated. James Mano, thank you very much for your message. Currently, the suspended Chief Justice, Her Ladyship Gertrude Tokono's public address speaks volumes about the emotional roller coaster she is experiencing since petition seeking her removal in office. This constitutional issue brings to the forefront the concerns about the judiciary's absolute independence and impartiality. The appointment of some judges to the Supreme Court, Appeal Court, and other lower courts have been a contentious issue, with perceptions of partisanship sparking debates about the court's credibility. Some critics vehemently argued that the appointment process and procedures are being influenced by the sitting president, which could actually compromise the objectivity of the judges being appointed under their administration. It does appear to me that our legal jurisprudence is inherently lacking principles, professionalism, and ethical standards, written by Ernest Evalov Kwashi from Dansuman. From my very good friend David Y. Akoete says, Boskewodi, I can only be happy about the restoration of 21st September as Founders Day, only if the NDC with its majority takes steps to enact a standing legislation to honor Osajefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. This is the only way the President Mahama-led administration can prove their commitment to protecting Osajefo's legacy from obliteration. Shalom. Thank you very much. I think it's a very valid point. Mr. Paul, let me come to you. The messages are lots.
Well, first of all, I think it's important to recognize that there's a history to this. There's a very interesting history to this. And that history is this. I mean, when Nkrumah was overthrown, first and foremost, they banned the holding of his photographs. Holding, if you held this photograph, it became a criminal offense. They banned the printing of his photographs. It was also a criminal offense. You could go to jail for it. And they banned the distribution of his photographs, also another criminal offense. But Kwame, you know, May Day, Workers' Day, May Day, which is celebrated in most parts of the world, after Nkrumah's overthrow, they banned it. Yeah, May Day celebration was banned in Ghana. They didn't just ban May Day. There was a trade unionist who was called Himeku, and who was chairman of the planning committee for May Day. They surcharged him with the cost of organizing all the May Days, over which he has presided as chairman of planning committee, because they said it was an illegal activity. May Day, 1st May. This is the history. And there's a lot more. You understand? So, what can we say? Founders Day has been restored for September 21st and so on. But I think it's not enough to just declare September 21st as Founders Day, holiday, and so on. And I fully agree with my brother here, Mr. London, when he says that, look, we have too many holidays in Ghana. You see, the holidays are not productive. You declare holiday for people to go and boost, go to beach, some get drowned, and so on. We must make these holidays meaningful. So I'm happy that Founders Day has been restored. But the government must make it a meaningful thing. On that day, we can use it to promote tourism. On that day, the tourist board, in cooperation with hotels in the Western region and so on, can organize pilgrimages to Nkrumah's birthday, to Nkrofo, and so on. We can organize excursions to the Elmina and Cape Coast Castle to tell us, to educate us about what it is that Nkrumah and others were fighting against. On that day, we should encourage school children to go to the Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Park to see what is there and so on. On that day, we should organize major national symposia on the relevance of our independence in all the regional capitals. On that day, we should be able to organize voluntary activities. Make the day meaningful. Make the day productive. Let that day contribute something to the revival of the national economy. Let that day constitute something to the learning of history. Let that day contribute something to reviving a sense of patriotism in the people of Ghana, and so on. So it is not enough to go to Parliament and declare Founders' Day restored. I fully agree with my brother here. We need to make all of our holidays meaningful. He spoke about Farmers' Day. And then normally we hold debates in Accra and regional capitals. Ministers go and make speeches, the president makes speeches and so on. How does that contribute to improving the welfare of farmers, especially peasant farmers? So we have to redesign the whole of the Farmers' Day concept. Is that the day on which we mobilize students of tertiary institutions to go into farms to assist farmers to harvest, to clear the land and so on? Is that what we do? Is that the day on which all of our television stations and radio stations will talk about backyard gardening as a contribution to the national effort to feed our population and so on? You understand? So our holidays must be made meaningful. May Day should not just be a day on which we go and march in front of the president and salute him and carry placards. We can make it more meaningful to the lives of our people and so on. So let us be creative. Let's think outside the box. Let's make these holidays useful tools for national development. So I'm happy that yes, it has been restored, but it must be restored in its full essence with measures which make this sensible and meaningful. That's all.
Charlie, free consultancy. Free consultancy. Wow, that's superb. Just active for the moment. Anyway, Kingston Bisnab Asimiga says, good morning to you. Watching you live from New York City. Great morning show. Georgino Manifan says, the CJ has allowed herself to be used by the MPP too much. And still they are using her. See the way she's acting. Oh, my brother, you can't say that to the Chief Justice. Alhaji Pound says, good morning to you. Good morning. Mr. Pratt should be studied as a course in a tertiary institution. Man is too brainy and have records at fingertips. Emmanuel Chirapa, I think Uncle Pratt should be appointed as the CJ. I was going to say that jokingly on there. Yeah, because he knows more than the suspended CJ. Oh, this my viewers will not kill me. It put me in trouble. Issa Adams says, good morning to you. Akufo-Addo and the Ache Mafia embarked on a self-serving agenda to change Ghana's history to foist their version on us. Thank God, Parliament has reversed this nonsense. This one also says, the history must be made compulsory in this country, as done in some other countries. Yakubu, is it not compulsory history?
No,
it's not.
It's not a stand-alone subject any longer.
Yeah. Oh, well, I think they should bring it back.
Yeah. Now I think it falls into the category of social. What do they call it? You know.
It's been diluted into so many things.
Because on the 21st September, we can even play documentaries and things like that. You know.
If GBC goes back and plays all those documentaries of Nkrumah that were played in the just before and immediately after the Ghana at 50 celebrations. What?
Yeah. Not Jeeves, Pan African will do it, don't worry.
Pan African is the leader.
But good morning to you and your pals. I'm enjoying your discussion. Keep it up. Greetings to you all. Eric from Tamale. Good morning to you, KOD. Extremely disappointed listening to the CJ yesterday. Interestingly, she is discounting and discrediting the same constitution she swore an oath to uphold, defend, and protect. protect, I beg your pardon. She's rubbishing the same lawful processes and judgment she employed in her position as the CJ. Kindly remind her that, unfortunately, it isn't in her right to determine how the law should be applied and to put it certainly in her own words. The law is the law. What she has done has vindicated the many Ghanaians who complained about the lack of confidence in the judiciary she headed. Considering she herself does not believe in her own judiciary. So far, no constitutional breach has been claimed. Let's all allow the processes to proceed to its logical conclusion for the rule of law to reign supreme. Ghana will work again. And I'm Kwame from Okaiko in North. Listen, I have the message. I apologize to you, the viewers. I greatly do apologize to you. But there's one last topic that we need to just touch on briefly. Just 2 minutes each, and then we wrap up the show. It has to do with the upcoming GJ elections. You know, it's... oh, okay, all right, okay. The last topic is GJ elections. Kwabena Eboa Sempa, others endorse John 4, business analyst, newspaper. Briefly, you know John 4, right?
I don't really know.
Oh, you don't know him?
Yes.
You've not met him before? No. Okay, I'll declare my biases on the show. He's a friend.
But I think that
I'll declare my biases. I'm rooting for him, by the way.
Has been run at the appropriate time and all the time, and the best will come out to win. But for me, I think that it's an election that you need to get very competent people. Looking at the role the Ghana journalists play in this country, their constitutional role, the fact that they mirror everything we do. We need competent leaders, people who are not political biased too much to handle this aspect for us. And we support whosoever will win, who will bring a lot of what do you call it, reforms to the GJ itself, and then we have a better...
Once you've not followed him, that means you don't even know the person.
I don't know the guy.
I've been very disingenuous.
And I've not followed the better.
I've been very disingenuous to our YouTube watchers, and I really apologize. I mean, I think we have a lot of viewers on YouTube. I forgot to acknowledge you. Good morning to you all. You have some messages, but like I told you, for want of time, I may not be able to read all the messages. But Mr. Landa, let me come to you on it.
First of all, I want to commend the current DGA president for the good work he has done so far. I don't know the other contenders and what they bring onto the, but I must say, I have been very impressed with, I followed his campaign prior to winning. I was impressed. Yep. He won.
Yep.
I met him, congratulated him. I followed him. He's done well, so I wish him well. Yeah. But in the last 30 minutes that I have, two things have happened in Cape Coast. We've lost some buildings have come down in London Bridge. Right. And we've lost a few people. So I want to send my condolences to, my family house is just up the road, and I'm suffering in that area.
Okay.
So my condolences to, and there are a few other buildings that are shaky. Right. So, and I'm happy with the efforts that the new MC and the traditional authorities are making to safeguard the situation. So that's all I want to say.
Mr. Pratt.
Well, I used to live close to London Bridge in Cape Coast in my days as a reporter for the Ghana News Agency, way back in 1976. And I extend my condolences to the people who have been affected. And I'm happy to learn that the municipal chief executive and his staff are doing everything possible, to give them some comfort, So to the people of Cape Coast and generally to the people of London Bridge who live around London Bridge, please accept our deepest concerns. And we are with you, As for the GJA elections, the Ghana Journalists Association elections, look, I'm watching the media, I'm listening to the media and so on. And the endorsements which the current executive is getting from everywhere, from people who are journalists, from non-journalists, from senior journalists, from whatever, it is clear that those in the current executive will win a landslide, to be a landslide victory. Indeed, I've not paid any attention to those who are contesting them, not much. But like all of you, I'm satisfied with some of the things which have been done by the current executive. One, they've managed to revamp the press center, which was dilapidated, as it were. It's been revamped. They've shown some very serious concern about violations of press freedom and have waged very important campaigns. For example, a serious campaign on investigations into the death of Ahmed Swale and so on. They've raised very important issues about the general welfare of journalists and so on, you know. So, look, this is a foregone conclusion. And if I were contesting anybody in the current executive, I would be withdrawing by now, you know. So that's all. Nothing more.
And for me, there, you know, Albert is a friend, so Charlie, how do you know that? There's a final message that I ought to read, and this one is, it says, please tell Chief Pratt to write books for the next generation to read. Well, your prayers have been answered. We've started. We are forcing him to write books. So the first one has not been launched yet. So I'm just showing you the cover. Yes, yeah, so yeah. Reparations, History, Struggle, Politics and Law, Kwesi Pratt Jr. This is one of many to come. So when we launch it, I'll tell you the price, but I'll buy the first copy. Yes. In fact, I've actually bought the first copy.
Can you buy the first copy?
Are you saying you can buy the first? It's a stolen verdict. Stolen book. But yeah, when it's launched, I'll actually let you know. Plans are far advanced with respect to, you know, properly launching the book.
That's good news.
And yes, and certainly we will do multiple launches across the country. The first one will definitely be in Accra. The other ones will be scattered across the country.
Why multiple launches across the country?
Why? Why not?
Have multiple launches in Addis Ababa, in Cape Town.
Actually, now it's beginning to look like the first launch maybe in Malabo.
Oh, okay.
You know, because there's an AU meeting on reparations.
Okay.
And I'm under some pressure to take the book to the AU meeting and to get it launched there, you know. The details have not been fixed yet and so on. But there's a part of it that makes me a bit uncomfortable, because the foreword to the book was actually written by President Mahama. You know, the foreword was written by President Mahama. And I've had some conversations with him about him launching the book. So what we're actually waiting for was for him to give us a date for the launching. Then the people in Malabo came and said, we want the book launched in Malabo. And I don't want to disappoint President Mahama, and because I think that he should be the first person to launch the book. You know, having spent considerable time to write a very brilliant foreword. You know, I was really surprised. I approached him and I said, look, I wanted him to write the foreword to the book, and he said, send the book to me. I sent it to him. It took a little time, look, about 3 weeks and so on. But when I saw his final write-up, the foreword, his depth of understanding about reparation and its consequences for the continent and so on is so deep, you know. I think that foreword he wrote, 3-page foreword, has added tremendous weight to the book, you know, and it is only fair that he should be given the honor to launch this book, you know.
Yeah, so yes, but my proposal still stands. I'm going to facilitate the launching in the other regions. So we'll come everywhere. We are coming. No, you go to the Malabo one. We will do the Ghana one. So I'll start from the north to the south, east and west, so that everybody can get a feel of the book. It's important that we continue to tell our story the way we know it. Thank you very sincerely for your time, Mr. Philip London, Mr. Pratt, and Honorable Timothy Atabwadi. I won't tell him. But My sincere thanks also goes to the viewers. You have been exceptionally amazing this morning. Your thoughts, your views, your comments on the matters that we raised and discussed on the show have been very invaluable. I appreciate all of you for your spending your mornings with me here on Pan-African Television. My name remains Kwame Owusu, so I'll see you on the other side, or perhaps tomorrow on the morning show. Have a very blissful day. I'll see you. Bye-bye.